What's up, everybody? I'm Scott,
I'm Jason.
and you're listening to Liquid Carnage. What's up, buddy?
Oh man, I think we owe our listeners a huge apology from last week.
So yeah, something happened on Anchor. It didn't post, so it might post randomly. We had a great guest, our friend Papa Dave Watson, came on, and as Tom would say, we probably just had a half hour old man bitch session, but we had a good time talking, man.
I got to admit, it was a great episode, and I just don't know. We recorded it in the same room, so I'm wondering if something like that happened and corrupted the file. But when I posted it to Podbean like I normally do, it didn't. It didn't show up. I scheduled it, everything was on there, and it didn't do anything.
It's a
So then
conspiracy.
I go
It's a
to
conspiracy.
Anchor.
The government is trying to cover the. We are the man, and the man is trying to hold us down.
Why though? We are free. It's freedom of speech, brother.
Is it freedom of speech though?
I think, man. I think
Is it? It's only freedom of speech if you're speaking about what they agree to.
that's true. If you speak to something I agree with, then you can say whatever you want. As
If
soon
I
as I don't
disagree,
agree
then
with it, you're
then we
out.
have to bash each other on Facebook, post some dank memes, and then never talk to each other again. Is that how that goes? I don't know what the kids are doing these days.
Well, I don't know. I just want to do a TikTok video now. That's all I want to do.
So the Chinese can spy on us? No, thank you. Or is that the Russians? I can't keep up.
Well, I think what I don't understand about TikTok is I guess I am too old because I thought it was just like a lip syncing thing that you do like dance videos
No,
on.
dude,
But
that was Dub Smash. That was 5 years ago.
oh, I'm still 2000 and late, baby.
Yeah. All right.
I'm still 2000 and late.
I was talking to a colleague of mine who wants us at the hospital to adopt TikTok as one of our regular social media platforms. I was trying to explain to her that's probably not going to be a thing because it doesn't have the legs to really last. You know, like 6 second dance videos or however long they are doesn't seem like a long term platform that'll work for businesses. You know.
Yeah, I also don't. I mean, I think that it definitely it adheres to a certain generation, and right now they don't they're kind of a younger generation, so I don't think they would be listening to our podcast.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think so either. But it's the funky world out there right now. So who knows? Maybe we're way off base. Maybe the entire world's watching TikTok. We're the only two idiots not.
Maybe. I mean, I know that it's a big thing. I know that my friends' daughters love it, and they post little videos of them singing and dancing and doing all kinds of fun stuff. So hey man,
Yeah, teach their own, man. Teach their
yep,
own.
that's right. That's right.
Here at Liquid Carnage, though, we just preach the good old fashioned memes on Instagram, which we have to get better about. That's my fault. And on the Facebook and occasionally the Twitter. The basic feeds. And if you want to hook us up, look us up on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Liquid Carnage. And if you want to check out our EP Tom and all of his funny memes about you and I, go to liquid_EP on Instagram and Twitter.
So you must be getting excited because all four sports are going to be starting in about 2 weeks, a week
It
and a
is
half.
like Christmas for the sports deprived. I've been watching Korean baseball, professional cornhole. Major League Soccer is not bad. They're living in the bubble in Orlando and seem to be doing quite all right. So I'm getting very excited that we are ramping up. Being an Arizona boy, seeing the hype around the Suns, just hoping they can put up a fight to fight their way into the playoffs gets me excited. I don't think they're going to make it, but I just want to see some fight in a young team,
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure, I have to wonder sometimes with some of these too, is that even though it's only going to be an 8-game season, just saying I got to play a little bit,
Yeah.
it probably make them feel really good.
Well, you look at the way they're having to finish this. Like baseball never even got out of the starting gate this year, so they have a 60-game condensed season to get to the playoffs. So you're taking a season that is normally 2/3 longer, 180 games, and reducing it. So the pennant race starts on July 31st, and every team is in it. Every game matters, and you can't take any games off. And that there's a certain level of excitement to that.
Yeah, but there's also a sense of you could see a very unorthodox postseason this year.
Yeah.
Because there are so many teams that start off hot. Like, I mean, that you would say, oh, there's no way that they can maintain that. And this time they only have 60 games to get through, so they might maintain it, and be fantastic. And then the powerhouses don't get anywhere.
Well, that's it. Everyone traditionally the Dodgers are late bloomers. They stumble out of the starting gates and take about 2 months to get rolling.
Yeah,
But once they start rolling, they don't lose again until the World Series. That's a shot. The
that was a little bit of a shot,
That's
but
a
whatever.
legit. It was a solid shot though, because
Whatever.
it's true. But like
Jeez.
in this case, though, like the Diamondbacks, they're always a hot start, and then they taper off at the end. If they have a shot, this is it. You know,
So are the who's managing the release, like the all the testing of these? I mean, are each league controlling their own release of the games? Because I've noticed that the four sports are all doing it kind of differently, and they're all getting mixed results.
yeah, it's interesting because they're all responsible for their own testing, and it's a funny world. Like baseball is, they're not in a bubble. They're playing in their own stadiums. They're traveling. They're doing all the things that probably not the smart way to do it. Hockey and basketball are going to bubbles. Now the NBA is in Orlando for their bubble, and from what I was reading on today, doing research for this, they've tested over 400 players, and they have had zero positive results since everybody went into the bubble.
Wow. Okay, so
So,
they're
so,
doing it good.
so they're showing it how it works, but they've taken over like the Disney World resorts or whatever, and it's a very tight ship, like zero tolerance. Hockey is very similar right now. Those that are in the playoffs, because they're basically just going to a shortened end of the season to play into the playoffs, and then they're going to start. So like the Coyotes and the Knights are practicing in their respective cities of Glendale and Las Vegas, and then they will travel to the bubble up in Edmonton because the NHL is doing theirs in Canada up in Toronto, and I want to say Edmonton or Winnipeg, one of those. But they're also having pretty solid results of nobody testing positive. Baseball doing their way, they're having a lot of positives, but I think they're starting to curtail it. And football is getting ready to get started. And if anyone's paying attention to that, the players are starting to speak up that they have not heard the testing policies on what the NFL plans to do to keep everybody safe, because they're also planning the similar way that baseball is going from stadium to stadium and traveling. So that adds another wrinkle to everything.
It's so fascinating because the sports is a small dichotomy of, or like it's like a small little petri dish of what's going on nationally, with
Mm-hmm.
every state kind of being forced to be responsible for however they're going to
Oh
open up,
yeah.
release, do that. And it sounds like even in the sports leagues, each one of them is going to have varying results. Like it sounds like the NBA is doing really well because they
Yeah.
just said you get here for a month, you don't go anywhere for a month, and we're going to keep you isolated that way. Whereas some of the other sports don't sound like they're keeping everything under control like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was reading Peter King's weekly article this month on NBCSports.com, Football Morning in America. I've always been a fan of Peter King. I think you have too. The guy's just a great journalist for sports.
Yeah.
And they focused this week on what the Minnesota Vikings are doing to prep for training camp, and they went through their whole protocol system of how they're testing players every day, staff every day as they come into the practice facility. Uh, Everyone has to wear a mask, no exceptions when they're in the facility. Contact tracing, like just to even get in the building every day, I have to respect what they're doing because you get swabbed, then you walk down the hall, and before you even get in the front door, they have an iPad with a thermometer on there that you have to stand 18 inches away. It takes your temperature. If you pass the temperature check, then you get a text on your phone, and you have to answer 10 questions. If you answer the questions properly, then you get greenlit into the building.
Wow. Okay. So they've really they set up this protocol.
Oh yeah, and then they just went into so much detail about this. It was amazing because anyone that's ever watched Hard Knocks on HBO or any documentary on the NFL, and we might lose some of our audience here, but please pay attention. This is probably how you do social distancing right in tight quarters, because there's over 85 to 90 players during the entire preseason, so they have bigger, you know, auditoriums for film study, for meetings. You talk about locker rooms and individual position meeting rooms, correct?
Okay.
So what they're doing in Minnesota is they said their auditorium seats like 170 people, and now it'll only seat 45. And the defense will have their meetings in there, And the offense, when they have to have their meetings, will go out to the practice facility and sit on the grass, and they'll bring in projectors every day. And if there's an entire team meeting, they'll just have to do it over Zoom. The cafeteria is the same way. You'll be able to text and order your lunch, and then you can either go to your locker or sit outside. But you can't. There's no one sitting in the cafeteria. They've had to increase their locker room size to put a locker on each side of every used locker to make sure that people have enough space. Every other shower head in the shower is gone. They've marked out 6 spots in the hot pools and the ice pools to reduce the number of players in half, which is just down to 6 because they can seat 12 total that can use it at one time. So they're really taking every precaution, and it's amazing. If that team is doing it, there's 31 other teams, in my opinion, that should be following suit.
So, and I guess that's my question is, are the other 31 teams doing that as well?
I think there's got to be something similar because every league is responsible for their own testing. And there's just finally today, we're recording on Monday afternoon, the NFL and the Players Association agreed to daily testing to make sure that all players' safety is at all times.
Okay, so they did come to that because, I'm wondering if it sounds like basketball said, look, you want to play, these are the rules that you follow, period, end of story. And then it sounds like baseball may not have had that strict of a policy that the league said basically every team should take care of their own people, because I've heard a lot of stories that those teams, there's a lot of teams that have been showing a lot of COVID-19 cases sporadically throughout these teams, which leads me to think that they were doing their own thing.
Yeah. And, I look at like the Arizona sports teams. Arizona's definitely a hot spot right now. I mean, we're cooling off a little bit, knock on wood, but we've gotten pretty lucky so far. I think only 1 or 2 of the Phoenix Suns contracted it before they left, and they've been cleared to play. I don't think any Diamondbacks, as far as I know, have contracted it, or Cardinals. Same with the Coyotes. I think we're doing pretty well so far, knock on wood. But I think everybody understands that you have to do your part and you have to stay isolated if you want to play the season. The NFL has enacted an opt-out clause this year. You don't have to play in 2020 if you don't feel comfortable. They'll pay you $150,000 not to play, but you don't get any bonuses. You don't get a year on your contract. Basically, your contract gets suspended for that year. So you come back the next year and you play at what this year's contract rate would be.
Okay, so forgive me, Tom, because when you hear this, you're going to say, "Oh my gosh, here comes the soapbox." But why do you think that someone who takes a more centralized stance of, if you want to play, these are the rules, that works, but people that say, hey, let every organization take care of themselves, that doesn't work? I think you know where I'm getting at here, because if you want to take it out further, the United States has taken the leadership role of saying, look, every state should decide on their own what they want to do, what's best for their state. And we're seeing that some states seem to be doing a little bit better than other states when it comes to, these kind of numbers that are coming out about COVID. Should it be a centralized, this is our policy, and passed down to everyone? Or should each individual organization or state handle their own policy?
Oh, man, that's hard. I think the problem is the get-go on this is that there was no from the top down approach. It was, we're going to let the states handle this on their own. And since there was no uniform approach, everything got out of hand real quick.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and that's the thing that's so weird is, like Arizona handled their reopening differently than Texas, that handled it differently than Florida, which handled it differently than Minnesota. So all of them handled it a little differently. And I guess there's something to be said about, our state is different than Texas. So the way we do things is going to be different than the way that Texas does things. However, if we look at, for example, the NBA just basically said, this is what's going to happen. Everyone either is in line or
they're not.
But, you don't play. I guess we can't tell them that, but I'm wondering if if a centralized plan is better than letting every organization just take care of their own.
Well, I think a centralized plan would have been great if we would have done that when the whole thing started. I think the problem we have now is that we're playing from behind, and nobody that can make a decision and enforce it will. And it's to a point now where there's, Rona fatigue, for lack of better terms, where people are just tired of having to deal with it. And we're just now implementing face masks and everything else. Whether they work or not, it's a different debate for a different day. But we're doing stuff now 4 months too late. We're playing from behind 4 months too late. And the damages are done. And I don't know if you can go back and try to centralize it,
Well, I mean, I think that part of the frustration, I'm sure too, is when you look at other countries' numbers, and you can see that the countries that basically said, "Look, we have one centralized plan, everyone's going to follow it." Their numbers now are so much lower than the countries that said, just everyone do what they need to do, and or don't take it seriously, or whatever, and they're exploding. It's hard to argue that, oh, okay, well, we're handling it better than every other country. You know what I mean? So to me, I lean toward a centralized plan where everyone says, hey, this is the national policy, period, end of story. And maybe we're just not a country that can do that, because we've seen, what, 3 weeks ago we had the Karen and Ken's episode where people are complaining and making scenes on Facebook and Twitter about their actions. So maybe we couldn't do that. It just seems odd that the countries that were able to do it, their numbers are like minuscule compared.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing. It's I think there's just such a division in our country right now that you're never going to get 100%, success rate of people trying to work together here.
Yeah, I mean, we have we have other things that are going on too. I mean, like now the big story is that the federal government sent troops into Portland to maintain law and order. Portland didn't ask for those troops to be sent. So, obviously we took a policy of, well, we're the central government, so we will dictate we're going to send troops to a place because we feel that you guys aren't following the rules. Yet you can open your state however you want for COVID. It's, you know what I mean? It's like, It's just weird. Where do you draw the line between when is it the central government's responsibility to dictate and when is it not? And it seems like even with that, they deem that law and order, oh, we dictate the terms, but COVID response, states take care of their own.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem is there's no unifying message. Our government isn't exactly a unifying government right now. It's either you're with them or you're against them. And that doesn't help in a situation like this,
Well, I think also it leads to the question of, okay, let's say the states say we're going to take care of COVID. We're going to do it our way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Georgia is a perfect example. The governor did not make masks a mandate, but the city mayors say, well, in our city, we want to make it a mandate. He actually filed a lawsuit against the city manager saying you're going against my order saying that you don't have to make it a mandate.
Yeah, I saw that.
You know what I mean? So it's even that. It's like, no, we want to let the smaller state. But what role should the smaller governments play?
Well, that's it.
Should the states be able to stop a city from handling the policy tighter than the state policy?
The unfortunate side there is that's politics being played at its finest. That is someone trying to show support for the commander-in-chief because of the same political party and ignoring the science and ignoring all the things that they should be looking at that might make a difference in this whole thing,
Yeah, well, and I think maybe in a private business like the NBA, for example, that's a private business, right? I mean, you want to participate, then you follow our rules. Whereas, in our public environment, every state can make up their own rules. Maybe every city should make up its own rules, and every town should make up its own rules, and every it gets down to how far do you let it go that everyone makes up their own rules. I don't
Well,
know.
it comes down to everyone's different though too. The rules that they have to have in probably Phoenix and Tucson are definitely different from what they are up in Kingman. You've experienced that firsthand.
Yeah.
I mean, what goes
Yeah.
on what goes on where you live down in Phoenix is the complete opposite of what happens up here in Kingman.
Right. I mean, surely on a percentage scale, our positive cases are much higher percentage wise than your positive cases in
Oh
Monmouth
yeah,
County. Yeah, got it.
yeah, and that makes a world of difference. That's just and I get not everything can be applied uniformly across the board, and we're starting to see that the results of that now. That comes with the Rona fatigue, where people are starting to complain about small businesses that aren't able to open, but Walmarts and Safeways and Kroger stores are, and how is that fair? And I mean, there's a lot of viable arguments for this too.
Well, and now I don't know if you saw the news story this morning, but now more and more of these major grocery stores are basically masks are required.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about essential businesses are now going to mandate something that the states are not mandating. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So then it gets into, well, you know, like we have a friend who is against masks. That's fine,
Yeah.
But one of the questions I asked the person was, well, what do you do if all the stores say you have to have a mask to come in? And he said, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to find alternatives to stores that say you have to wear a mask in our store. I'll have to figure out a different way to deliver and I thought, man, see, I mean, businesses start taking that into their own hands. That goes against, can a government say, hey, no, you can't force someone to wear a mask in your store?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know how it works, but man.
And I think what people have to remember is they're just asking to wear a mask. You still don't have to wear pants or bras or whatever you never wear at Walmart. So, don't worry about it. Fuck, man. The shitty part is what's going to happen is they're just trying to drag this out and set this up for the Black Friday sales at the end of November, and that'll be a total cluster if they don't let people in without masks.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, the stores, the number of stores are getting bigger and bigger now. Like I just heard that all the Fry's stores now are joining that group, and Target, Walmart. I mean, we're talking big. I mean, now we're talking big name stores. We're not talking just mom and pops or you know.
But realistically, that's what should have happened months ago. Is these big name stores, these big box stores should have gotten behind this months ago and mandated it so people could have gotten used to it.
Well, the other question though is months ago, the federal government could have said, hey, we're doing a mask ordinance for the next 60 days. Everyone wears masks, period. Or the state governor could have said, hey, we're making it, but they didn't do that. And because they have to balance the freedoms that people, want to make choices versus the public good of safety. So, they won't let a government tell them what to do, but they'll honor or respect what a business does. So maybe these businesses just said, hey, you know, we'll take the weight of it, kind of like the NBA did.
Yeah. Do you think the mask will ever go away?
I don't. I have to be honest. I think that until there is a cure,
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll have masks for a while, and I think there will still be some people who even after will wear masks. I really do.
Well, I think there's some people that should wear masks afterward too.
Well, but you look at you look at China, and they have to wear masks because of all the smog and pollution in the air.
Mm-hmm.
But some of our bigger cities, that pollution is going to come back. I mean, when the traffic starts to increase again,
Oh
the
yeah.
pollution is going to come back. People might say, you know what, I'm going to wear a mask because I don't want to inhale this crap.
Oh yeah. I agree. I mean, it's going to be an interesting, probably I'd say year and a half to see how this all plays out. Now, I think we're in this for a while. I was talking to one of my superiors about that, and I just said that if we're in this for another year, at least, that I'd be shocked if it was just a year. It's probably going to be a lot longer, whether we want to admit it or not. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then the next question is, okay, if it lasts a year, how long do the companies put a mask mandate? Is it the
Exactly.
same year? Do they go farther out?
Yeah. And that's it. It's what do you do? this is a moving target, and there's no right answer, you know.
Well, and I guess the only thing I would argue there, Scott, is
Mm-hmm.
there are plenty of examples of foreign countries that have seemed to have either eliminated or reduced it to such a small number that it's a manageable virus. To
Mm-hmm.
say that whatever those countries did obviously is working better than what the United States is doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So I argue with people that say, "Oh, we're handling it just fine." Well, not really. Not really. Not. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that for the most people, when you look at the numbers from a whole, we've have hit 1% of our population has been sick.
Yeah.
Has gotten the virus. That means that we have 99% of the population that have not gotten sick. So in the general scheme of things, that's not bad, right? I mean,
No, I don't think
99%
so.
of us are perfectly fine, may never get it, whatever. And so for some people, I'm sure they're saying, well, yeah, 1%, that's nothing. That's no reason to shut everything down and make everyone wear a mask and blah, blah, blah. So I get the value of that argument. However, there are other countries that had, 0.01% of their
Yeah.
population get it, so it's all how you want to look at it. And when I was talking to that friend of ours, I was thinking it could get tougher for that person. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
things could get more and more difficult for him or to not have a mask or not wear a mask.
Yeah, no, I agree.
As more companies say, you know what, government's not telling us what to do, the state government's not telling us what to do, city government's not telling us what we want to do, so we'll just do it ourselves.
Yeah, and if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself.
Now, at the hospital, do they have a mandatory mask
Yeah.
program there? So if you go to the hospital to the ER, if you don't have a mask, they're going to give you a mask to wear.
Not anymore. You get turned away without a mask.
Oh, they just turn you away. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
See.
Now with the
Yeah.
ER, the ER it might be different. I haven't had to go.
Yeah.
But we gave away masks the first couple weeks, and now it's more or less common practice. Like you have to have a mask. You're responsible for getting your own mask if you want to step in inside one of our facilities.
Okay. So the small maybe that's the way it's going to go is the government will just get out of our lives and we'll just make our own policies.
Well,
I've read some of these stories where the restaurants and the businesses are saying, if you wear a mask in here, we'll throw you out. So,
oh yeah,
so it could be on both sides of that too.
Yeah, it's a crazy time, man. It's a crazy time to be alive, but everyone's got to stay healthy and just do their best to try to find something positive in here too. And that's getting harder.
Well,
and harder to do
we're gonna have sports in the next couple of weeks, so I'm sure everyone will be excited about that.
Dude, I cannot wait. I'm so excited. Just we are talking playoff basketball, playoff hockey. Baseball's going to be in a pennant race, and the start of football. That's going to be an insane amount of sports to take in. So
one thing I want to see on the notes from the executive producer is whether he's turned himself into a Colorado Avalanche, Colorado Rocky, Denver Nuggets, Denver Broncos fan.
No. He and I had that conversation before we left.
Okay, and he said he will never turn coat.
He discussed turning turncoat for the Avalanche, and I shut that shit down pretty quick.
Yeah, that's good. Okay,
I told him no, you're a Yotes fan, and he tried to give me shit for being a Knights fan, but I'm closer to Vegas. There's a bit more Knights coverage up here, and I'm still supporting the Coyotes. I think hockey, as I'm trying to learn the sport, I can have two teams, especially in such close proximity to each other,
I think so, too. I think you could have two football teams. You could have the Rams and the Cardinals.
Ooh, not in the same division, buddy. And I know you're arguing what the Yotes and the Knights are, but the Yotes are switching divisions in a couple of years. So when the Seattle hockey team starts.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah, that's right.
So just keep that in mind through everything. But, it's a very exciting time. But in the meantime, everyone needs to mask up. I know it's not your favorite thing to do. It's not ours either, but we're not getting out of this thing anytime soon. So let's just get with the program and just try to support everybody and take care of each other.
I love it. I love it.
So with that said, Jace, why don't you take us home?
Well, hey, thanks everyone for listening. Sorry about last week, but we'll make sure this one gets on there for sure.
Hey, it still might show up randomly. You never know.
Yeah, if you get an extra episode, that's what happened. It was the one that the great episode. We might have to re-record that one with Dave just to try to get that magic back. So if it doesn't come up, we might do a re-recording.
Dave Watson did a great job talking about his real estate program, and Dave Watson is probably one of the best realtors in Kingman, Arizona. So if you haven't had a chance to have someone help you with real estate, or are looking for someone to help you get your house listed, or even, buy a house, I would call our friend Dave Watson. If you want that contact information, hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all at Liquid Carnage.
That's awesome. We'll make that up. We'll find that episode, though, I promise. Thanks for listening, everyone. That was Scott. I am Jason. And as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some Liquid Carnage.